Another letter.
School children make nice targets.
He gave himself a name.
Greek, Morse code, astrological signs. This guy's used them all.
I like killing people because man is the most dangerous animal of all.
There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, it's time for another episode of 13 o'clock, and on this episode, we're finally getting around to tackling probably the classic American true crime case of the serial killer that was never caught, the Zodiac.
Yeah.
And we've had this requested so many times, and I'm like, well, a lot of people have done shows about it, but we haven't done one. And, like I said, we do true crime and unsolved mysteries and stuff like that, so we had to get around to it eventually. So we finally did.
Yeah.
This is going to be our show.
This one we've just been pushing back because really, by the numbers, this ought to be a real common, show on the internet. I mean, everybody should know this one, but everybody's requesting it, and I guess we have to do it just to cover the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, Zodiac's a monumental case. I've read several books about this case over the years. I saw that really good movie about it.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of documentaries about it. I have my own opinions about the case, and they kind of line up with pretty much everybody else about the case. But this is a good case.
Yeah. And honestly, the last couple days I've been reading a lot of websites, zodiacciphers.com, zodiackiller.com, and reading a lot of the stuff that's on there. And I've actually kind of changed my mind about a lot of the prime suspects and stuff like that. Now I'm not entirely sure if they have any idea who the hell this is.
Over the years, reading books about it and seeing programs and just kind of thinking it over and over again, I was never satisfied that they ever really had the suspect in their sights. I don't think they even came close.
Yeah. I suspect that they never even picked this dude up, or he was never even on their radar.
Yeah, and I think what kind of threw him off is that there was a guy who kind of fit the bill who seemed to be toying with them that he was the Zodiac.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. You guys probably know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that was a red herring.
Yeah, I think it was too. And like I said, after reading a lot of documentation on this case and, watching a lot of different documentaries from different points of view, and kind of focusing on different people that have written books about it and whatever. I'm kind of leaning toward not being that guy. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And actually, the news story I have today is also Zodiac related. But before we do that, let's do our regular shout outs.
Yeah.
Now, The Faceless Villain, Volume 2, the print version is up.
There it is.
It is for sale.
Yes, it is.
We're filming this on Saturday, and it just went up for sale today. Now, I'm still working on the ebook, but by the time this show goes up on Tuesday, I can't imagine that the ebook wouldn't be available because it doesn't take that long. I think it only takes 24 hours, and I'm almost done with it, and I'm probably going to finish up the formatting tomorrow and get it uploaded tomorrow. Yeah. So by Tuesday, the print book and the ebook should both be up, and then I'm going to start recording the audiobook early next week. Now, if you are one of our $20 plus patrons, today I just sent you a free copy, a free digital proof copy of Faceless Villain Volume 2. So hopefully you receive that. You will also be the first on the list to get a free audio code
when it's ready.
When it gets released.
Yeah.
So, and I also I sent you guys a message too that it's on our December 15th mail out, we want to do t-shirts.
Yeah.
So if you could email me back, just to the address that I sent the thing from.
Everybody's going to get t-shirts.
Yeah, email me back which t-shirt you want and what size you want, if you want men's, women's, whatever.
We'd like to get all that information in early.
Yeah,
so we can soften the blow in terms of the expenses, because those suckers are expensive. They're like $20.
It is, yeah, they're kind of expensive.
They're like $20 each. So we want to pay for them over the next couple.
Over the next couple, we can get everybody's, and
get
then
everybody together.
And then we can get them all shipped out by December 15th, because every 3 months I usually send free stuff out, whether digital or mail.
Yeah, we got a lot of designs to choose from. We'll help you pick something out online.
Yeah, because I sent you a link in your email, so just go there and pick whichever one you want. Tell me what size and all that other stuff. So just sometime in the next few weeks or month or whatever. So that would be good. Let's see. Our last movie review was the 1978 haunted house movie, The Evil.
Yeah.
Which I guess a lot of people hadn't seen. We figured that would probably the case, because that's kind of
we got feedback on it. A lot of people remembered that show. Couldn't believe that we knew about it, because it's
I didn't know. You only remembered it, and then we had to research and find out what movie it was, because you couldn't remember what the name of it was, but you remembered some scenes from it.
It was a fucking bizarre movie.
It was pretty weird, but I said, and I think I commented this on the YouTube video, talking to somebody about it, and I was like, there's just something about 70s horror, but haunted house movies particularly, that I really like. It's even sucky ones. I can just sit there and watch them. I watched another one last night on that 42nd Street Films channel. It was called The House of the Seven Corpses. It had John Carradine in it. And John Ireland, isn't that Kathy Ireland's dad?
I don't know. I didn't get pulled into it. I didn't. I thought it was kind of... I mean, it looked good, but I was like, I didn't really care.
Do you know what building that was? Because I was curious. Because I said, that house was gorgeous. That was the Utah governor's mansion in Salt Lake City. That's where they shot it. And I was like...
It was a Mormon palace.
Yeah, because that house was, beautiful. But yeah, it was kind of it was the same plot as Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Basically,
roughly, where it's it was a bunch of actors and they were filming there, and then they accidentally reanimated the dead. Oopsie.
I remember watching those 70s movies in the era that they were made.
Yeah.
And the reason why they were scary is because you weren't, as a kid or as a viewer, you weren't quite sure what the state of the art was in terms of special effects, so you weren't quite sure what they were going to show you.
Yeah,
it was ramping up slowly. Yeah. You weren't sure what was really possible.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as movies got better and better, more and more became possible, and you were just floored. Damn, that dude's head flew off. Or something, what I mean?
I had a dream like that the other day. A guy blew himself up and he pulled his own head off.
You weren't really sure what you were going to see. And
I have dreams like that all the time.
And really, once the special effects matured to the level of, say, Poltergeist, you were transported to another world temporarily. Yeah. Because you could have never dreamt of that kind of special effects in the 70s, really.
Yeah, that's
wow,
true. I was honestly, Alien and The Thing blew my mind back then, because that was some amazing fucking special effects. Those are amazing special effects now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's
in
now,
horror movies, though, they were low budget, so you weren't going to see that kind of shit.
Now I feel like everything's CGI, so it's they can whip up anything, so it's just meh.
Yeah, you see it and you're like, the big fucking deal.
Yeah, well, big giant robot that's bigger than the Earth.
Right.
Yawn.
CG is good for backgrounds.
It's good for backgrounds and for
erasing tire tracks.
Yeah, and augmentation. But it's I don't like when they make whole entire characters out of CGI.
Yeah.
Because they still can't get the movement quite right.
Doesn't quite look right.
It doesn't quite look right. It's a little too fluid, and and it always just takes me right out of it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not like a Luddite. I'm not like one of those, I hate CGI. But I think
sometimes you see it and it's where you're like, okay, you just accept it.
Yeah, it's better when it's, just very judiciously applied. Let's put it that way. when you're not creating whole monsters out of it. Speaking of movies, we mentioned this last week, but Thomm has started his own Facebook group.
Yeah.
Called Tomm's Shitty Movies.
Shit with D's.
With 2 D's.
SHIDDY. Tom Shitty Movies. It's on Facebook. You can join the group. I probably have about 70 in there already.
You've got quite a fun group going there.
Yeah, I have certain standards. You know what I'm talking about? I do. Pretty much everybody's welcome, but I have had to kick a couple of them out. If you're too sensitive, don't show up to this group. We're in there. We're having fun, and it's kind of a sausage fest right now. We do have some cute girls in there. Little Olivia. Little goth queen, princess. She was on one of our posters that we did.
Yeah.
She's in it. Tara's there.
Yeah.
They're just, so there are girls in there, talking, but it's mostly guys that like action films, and, just saying, sausage fest, and sometimes testosterone gets involved, and, guys are just going to say what they want to say sometimes, and, there's certain people from certain cultures, they might get slightly offended, and gotta, be the bouncer and show them to the door. You know what I mean?
Well, it's your Facebook group.
I'm not. Yes, my Facebook group. I'm not sensitive about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just not sensitive.
And it's just fun. If
I have a sense of humor, and some people don't have sense of humors.
Senses of humor.
Senses of humor.
Sense of humor.
But I've been talking to Jair from Mexico, all day on there, sharing videos and stuff. So we do have an international crowd. And
he has also encouraged you to post your own shitty videos.
Yeah, well,
movie reviews.
He's constantly encouraging me to, riding with the spirits of Kukulkan through, through tequila. I showed him Mexracy.
Oh, right.
The Mexican Morrissey cover band. It's awesome. Band. He liked it.
I like them.
He didn't know who Morrissey was. He's like, man, this guy's pretty good.
They kick ass.
Yeah, he didn't know who Morrissey was. But
there's actually a lot of Mexican Morrissey and Smiths cover bands.
Yeah.
It's a whole subculture.
Yeah.
But I think Mexracy is the best one.
Mexracy's funny, man.
But yeah,
I like it.
They're actually really good. They're very talented.
Yeah.
But yeah, so go if you like action movies and you like kind of brief sausage festy type of you can't see, like, if you're just listening to the audio podcast, you can't see my funny little hand gestures.
Yeah, it's like a pretty small sausage.
They're very small sausages.
Whose sausage you talking about there?
I don't know.
That's not mine.
It's not your sausage.
Okay.
That's just a general. That's a general
bunch
of sausages. What am I supposed to do? Just put 3 or 4 of my fingers together? I don't know. Whatever. But so yeah, go check that out if you like Thomm's commentary on action movies. Some of them are very
a lot of it is guys trade information. So we're telling each other about movies, and we're making comments.
Girls don't do that. We're just talking in Klingon, and we're not.
I don't know.
I don't know
what I'm talking about.
Substance.
Guys have information-based relationships. You know what I mean? We're not talking about how we feel.
Yeah, because that's for girls. That's for girls. All those feelings. Ew.
God, I love fucking razzing.
You are very funny, though. You are funny.
I'm messing with it.
You're not really, because I know you.
You see it happen.
But I know you, and I know I know your shtick at this point. So
all kinds of shit went down. What else do we have to talk about?
And also
my new show.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, that came out today.
Remember, a long time ago, NPR called and wanted him to go to the studio and record an interview about the Mammoth Mountain poltergeist.
Yeah.
And we had to go back a whole bunch of times. 3
times,
to
get that thing recorded.
Because they were like, well, we wanted to, have more information on this and that and the other thing. So finally.
Yeah, a listener just came and says, hey, is this about you guys? And we're like, yeah. And I'm listening to it. It's ready. Because Miss Lopez didn't tell me that it was finished.
Yeah.
Although I sent her a message. I approved of it. It's short. A lot of it is very abbreviated.
Right.
But about Mammoth Mountain. But it was good because I think it was kind of a quick version of the story. And it didn't have a lot of spoilers about the book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if people are interested in the case, then they can come and get Mammoth Mountain. You know what I mean? If they're not interested, then we didn't waste their time.
Yeah.
So it's like a good teaser video. I think it's probably about maybe 15, 20 minutes long.
Yeah, I thought it was 20 minutes or 20
it wasn't that
minutes
long.
Or something like that.
No.
But yeah, so yeah, she kind of put together all of this interview that he did because it was
me telling parts of the story and they got music and sound effects in the background.
Nice.
I mean, it's
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, it was good. It didn't misrepresent the case. That's all I told her. I said, you can do what you want, just don't misrepresent what I'm saying, and she did that. She did a good job.
Yeah, well, that's good. Okay, and I think the only other thing that I wanted to call out, and I said this last week too, and we have already got one submission, so the rest of you guys need to get in there. For our Halloween show, we are going to do reader. Why do I keep saying reader? I don't know. I guess because I write books.
Yeah.
But we're doing listener submitted. They can be true stories or they can be fictional, as long as they're scary. It can be a true ghost story. It can be a true just scary shit that happened to you. It could be a horror story that you wrote that is fictional. That would be cool too. If you would like us to read it on our extra special Halloween extravaganza coming up. On, I think the Tuesday is October 30th, so it'll be the day before Halloween. So just submit that to my email account, which is gravecake @gmail.com, and I will put that in the description also. So go ahead and send that. Like I said, we've already had one really good submission, and I might read some of my fictional stories too, so we'll see how that goes. It'll be a fun show, I think. We're going to do a whole creepy kind of atmosphere kind of shit, so, that'll be fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like an in-home seance type setting.
Remember I said I wanted to do that.
Like
I wanted to
okay.
do that. We could do like,
Maybe,
I don't have a Ouija board or nothing, but we could like make one.
Maybe we can have some guests over.
Yeah, we'll just have we'll do communing with the spirit stuff.
Maybe we'll have Jenny and Dimitri over.
Yeah, Jen and Dimitri.
Jen and Dimitri,
That
yeah.
would be nice, actually, because they've actually never been on the show.
No, and as a matter of fact, they were asking to come over because he wants me to feed him butter chicken. You don't understand something, people. When you have culinary skills, you can't get these people off you. I can
They're
make a
always
butter
wanting to
chicken.
come
They just want to
over.
come over and they want to eat.
They always want to come over
And shit, it's gonna ruin my diet. Butter chicken. I do miss some butter chicken. I'm gonna have to make some butter chicken soup.
I miss it too. He makes really
Yeah.
good Indian food.
We'll
Well,
just
you
have
make
it
good
with-
all food, but you
Yeah,
make
we'll have it
really good
without
food.
rice because it gotta make like a lower carb.
Yeah, we're
version
trying
of
to
it.
do. We're trying
I want
to
a
do
low carb diet.
Not no carb. I'm not doing
Yeah,
that shit because
but
it's
low
like
carb.
I still have to have bread and pasta
Yeah.
every now and then, but we're doing low carb.
Yeah, I've dropped weight and gained muscle mass, but I'm
Yeah, you
working
have,
out
but
too.
you've been
I've been working out.
You
Yeah.
bought a bunch of weight.
And I gotta
stuff
buy
like that.
more weight too. I need another. I need another 100 pounds at least.
It's like Giles Corey when they were putting stones on his chest.
I'm gonna be getting fucking big, man. Next year I'm gonna be big.
You
I'm
won't
in
even,
competition.
You
with,
won't even be able to fit in the frame.
I'm in
of the
I won't be able to fit in the
show.
frame.
Yeah,
I'm
you'll
in-
be like your arms will be like that big.
I'm in competition with Daniel Craig. I'm in competition with Crussell. I saw Crussell in Soldier, and I'm like, oh man, I need them shoulders. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm gonna take.
Yeah, I need those shoulders. So and I'm looking at Stallone. This dude's like 72 years old, and he's ripped.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Come on.
you get there. You're doing good. It's
I know.
I can hear him. It's like my office is all the way across the house from our bedroom.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm in here working during the day, and all I can hear from the bedroom is like,
Yeah. And I'm Arnold pressing like crazy and shit.
yeah,
Dumbbells and none of that.
yeah. You're gonna be big and giant. You look like Johnny Bravo over the top.
Yeah.
All right, so that's about all the shout-outs. Now let's get to our little brief news story, which I also said was actually Zodiac related.
Yeah.
Now, this news story, I looked to see if there was an update on it that was more recent, but there wasn't. Now, the most recent news story of this was from May 2018. And you know how we always talk about this new genealogy website thing where they're using it to catch all these killers and stuff like that? Well, they're going to try and catch the Zodiac
I'd like to see this.
using the same method.
That stamp.
So, yeah.
That
so
stamp.
apparently it's more than one stamp because they were able to get a partial it wasn't a whole, DNA profile, but they did get a partial DNA profile from either one or more of the stamps that were on some of the authenticated Zodiac letters from back in the day, and they're going to attempt to upload this to the GED Match genealogy website and see if there is some link to some family member that is perhaps related.
I'm telling you, that was pre-DNA.
Yeah.
All right, so he wouldn't have been watching for DNA.
Yeah.
All right. If they got DNA off one of those stamps, that means he licked it.
Yeah.
He didn't give it to somebody else.
It wasn't
lick.
just the stamp, it's the envelope, like to close
Right.
the envelope too. They got some off there as well.
So he wouldn't have bothered to give it to somebody else to lick or to whatever. That's his DNA.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have been thinking that
Right,
then.
they
It's
wouldn't have
like
been thinking that.
they were thinking about fingerprints and shit like
Right.
that, but they
Yeah.
weren't really thinking about
Now, if you
DNA.
didn't find DNA, that means he used water. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So you can understand. Maybe he just would have done that just for some kind of weird
But like I said,
precaution.
it
but I'm
wasn't-
telling you, if there's DNA on that, that's his.
Yeah, it wasn't water because they got a partial
Right.
DNA profile off of it, which, like I said, it helped them eliminate
Yeah.
or possibly eliminate some suspects.
They might be able to find out
When
who
they
he
did it.
is. I'm gonna tell you right now. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm pretty sure he's dead.
You think he's dead?
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I don't know.
That was
We
a long
said
time ago.
said that about Golden
Said that
State
about
Killer
Golden
too,
State
and
Killer,
we were
yeah.
wrong about that. So I'm not gonna. I kind of suspect he might be dead too, but I'm not gonna make any definitive statements in that line. That dude might still be alive.
Those
He's
guys
fine.
from that generation didn't live that long.
Right.
You know what I mean? They had high mortality back then because of their diet and their exercise.
Yeah.
Chances are he's dead.
Yeah,
You know?
well, yeah. If you want to play the odds, he probably
The odds
is
game, he's
dead.
dead. Right.
He probably is dead.
Golden State Killer, he was lucky to have lived for as long as he did.
Yeah.
Most guys from that generation, because of their life expectancy, didn't make it to that age.
Yeah.
Especially high risk takers. Serial killer is going to be a guy who takes risk.
Well, yeah.
You know,
and
has mental problems too.
And
so,
Golden State Killer, I mean, he
Right.
killed
So-
a lot of people.
Yeah,
and he
so-
raped a lot of people.
Golden State Killer broke the mold. He beat the odds.
Yeah.
He beat the odds.
But shit caught up with him in the end.
Not really. When I looked at it, I tell you, he still kind of won. Because no matter
Well-
what, they can only give him a few years in prison.
That's true.
Because at his age, he's not going to last long anyway.
Yeah.
So
It's. I mean, that kind of
justice
sucks,
will never be
but-
served.
Well, no, of course not.
Right.
I mean, they should have caught him back then. Well, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's like hindsight.
He's going to go to prison.
2020.
He's going to go to the prison infirmary and chill out, watch television and they're going to take care of him. put him
Yeah.
on the shit until he dies. So he's going to get free medical care until he dies. He won't be free.
Yeah.
You know, he won't be able to walk around. He won't like that. But I bet you going to prison and ending up in the infirmary, that's where they're going to put him at his age,
Yeah.
will actually extend his life.
It probably will.
Yeah.
The only
He'll
recent
be
thing.
watching fucking soap operas and shit.
I'm watching Oprah. It's like the only recent news that came out about him that last time I checked was that they did decide that they were going to try him for all the crimes like in one
Right.
venue. Because before they were arguing, it's like, well, should we send him here and there because he killed in so many different counties? But actually, they did decide that they were going to try him all for one in one place. So that's the last I heard. But yeah, so I haven't heard anything on the Zodiac DNA thing since May. I imagine that they have uploaded the partial profile and are waiting to see if any matches emerge. Wouldn't that be the shit if they caught the fucking Zodiac?
There's a chance.
Because he's kind of like, I mean,
He's the Holy Grail.
that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
there really isn't another one
No.
of that. I don't want to say caliber.
Of that
'cause
magnitude.
Yeah, of that magnitude. That's a better word because
Yeah.
caliber almost makes it sound like positive,
Right.
and I don't want it to sound like that. But like,
Yeah, this is not a serial killer fan club here.
no,
We don't like these fuckers. People,
No,
regular
I think
listeners
they're
know that we don't like
scumbags.
these fuckers.
I think they're scumbags and
Yeah,
they're
they're bad.
pathetic. So you know what I mean?
Well,
And-
I just marvel that they can do the shit that they can do.
yeah,
And get away with it. And then
That's
live
what-
with themselves afterwards.
Yeah, that's what freaks me out.
For any new listeners, I'm ex-military guy, you know, and I've done some shit. I couldn't do what these dudes do. I couldn't kill a person that's begging for their lives or innocent people that have done nothing wrong. I can kill a bad person.
Well, yeah,
You know,
I think most people could.
can.
Most
you
people
know?
could.
But if you're defending yourself, you're defending others.
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
You know, I can do that.
Yeah,
All right,
I don't
but-
think most people would have a problem with that. But yeah, like
I don't have a problem
killing
with
just an innocent person.
Yeah.
That's not armed. They're not
Right.
doing anything to you. Or sort of, you know, I don't.
Yeah.
Most people would not be
Now,
able to do that. Thankfully.
sometimes a soldier will his actions will accidentally result in the deaths of innocent, what we would call an innocent enemy civilian. In other words, a civilian that is on the enemy side. You could call it collateral damage. That's really unfortunate. But most guys can even kind of live with that because you're kind of robotically doing what you were told and pressing buttons and rockets and missiles hit.
Yeah, it's not like you had to look somebody in the face.
Yeah, and it was not really the intent.
Right.
It was the civilians were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you really couldn't avoid it. Really, the responsibility is on an authority above you.
Yeah.
So that's how they mitigate that. But what these guys do, shit, they do what they do, and they love what they do. It's almost like a sexual fetish involved with murder. You know, basically that's what it is.
It does seem exactly
It's
like that.
murder somehow fused in with their sex drive.
Yeah. Well, that's why so many of them are like loners or,
Yeah.
you know, don't have wives or girlfriends. Some of them do, but I mean, you know, most of the time, I mean, that whole picture of the serial killer is like this lone creep, like living in
Right.
the basement and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason that's a trope.
If that's who you are, I got no fucking respect for you. None. I'd have more respect for a hitman like the Iceman. You know what I mean?
At least he was just doing it.
At least he was doing it for a job, and he was killing basically guys that were bad guys, other criminals, basically.
And he was getting paid. So it's
And
not
those
like,
guys are all in the meat grinder. They're all in that game. That's what they do. So
you know, it's not good, but
it's not
just,
good, but there's no innocence involved. They're
and
all
you can
guilty.
understand
You're right.
that. You can.
Right.
I mean, like I said,
Similar
you can understand that.
to soldiers at war.
Yeah.
what's happening.
Like I said,
within
it's understandable. Serial killers are fascinating because
serial killers are fucking scum.
Most people don't
Yeah.
understand how anybody could do that to another person.
It's
That's
unthinkable.
why. Yeah, and the same thing. And the
Right.
same thing when we're talking about the Zodiac. Right. So I guess we're going to take a little short break right now. And when we come back, we will get into the Zodiac case, talk about all the victims. I'm going to talk about some of the interesting theories that have come out in the last few years about some various suspects, and some of like weirder theories and shit like that. I don't want to go too much into that because I don't like all that conspiracy theory bullshit, and most of it's like pretty stupid. But so we'll get into it after the break, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
Okay, everybody, Jenny's got some new shirt designs up, 4 of them. Really good ones, too. Atlanta Ripper, Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle, and of course, Demon Child, because man said he could. These are updated designs. I think they look really cool. Jenny did a great job on them. Were they fun making, Jenny?
They were very fun, and thank you very much. I think they came out very good.
Yeah, they get really good. They're very high quality shirts. Jenny and I wear our own shirts at certain times when we're trying to put a spotlight on ourselves, and you can put a spotlight on yourselves. If you go ahead and pick up one of these shirts today, you guys are going to love them. Links in the description, www.zazzle.com at 13 o'clock.
Yeah, so go check out our store at www.zazzle.com/13 o'clock. We got these 4 cool new t-shirt designs, plus all our old ones if you'd rather get one of the old ones. But these ones are awesome, and you should check them out.
They're also available in women's cut, and they look really cute. Jenny's got some.
So thank you. Go check them out.
Significant, because we are willing to put pen to paper and conclude at the end of the day that this house is very much haunted and will continue to be haunted for a very long time.
Okay, we're back in the main part of the show. We're going to talk about the Zodiac killer. But before we do that, I want to touch back up on the Iceman Kuklinski. Earlier on, I was thinking about it. I said that he only killed gangsters, and I was actually wrong about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was actually wrong about that. He killed anybody who pissed him off.
That's right. You told me that didn't he just kill somebody that cut him off in traffic or something?
There were some kids up in the mountains in a damn VW Winnebago type VW bus. That's what it's called, a VW bus. They cut him off. He claims that they tried to drive him off the road. All right, and he somehow got an advantage over them and got them to stop the car. I don't remember exactly what. I think he shot at the driver, and then it wrecked. That's what I think. And then he got out of his car and fucking executed all of them. And I think there was like 3 or 4 of them in there. And he must have told the truth because that was just part of his confession.
Yeah.
It's not like they found those bodies and said, "Did you do this?" No, he said, "No, I killed some kids up in this mountain." And he killed dudes in bars regularly. If you were going to be a tough guy around Kuklinski and talk shit,
blow your face off.
He was going to follow you out. And one dude was out there taking a piss behind the back of the bar, and Kuklinski slipped up behind him and put a garrote around his neck and strangled him to death while he was hanging him over his back. Said the piss was fucking just going out like that, and he just waited, and then once it was about 10, 15 minutes past, he just dropped him and walked off like nothing happened. He's a bad motherfucker. I tell you what, out of all those multiple murderers with guys with high body counts, in a way, I kind of grudgingly respect that dude because he was a very disciplined hitman. Very disciplined. I mean, other than when he got pissed. You know.
Well, yeah, that doesn't strike me as
but,
super
you know,
disciplined.
Well, you know, he was in a world of thugs.
Yeah.
You know, and it's easy for pissing matches to break out amongst a world of thugs. You know, you didn't want to step on that dude's dick. If I ever got into a position where they got sent to jail and they put me in a cell with Kuklinski, I'd be Kuklinski's best friend. How you doing, Mr. Kuklinski? Because that dude would kill you in a heartbeat.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to cross that dude.
Well, yeah, you got to sleep in the same fucking cell.
Yeah, I wouldn't cross that dude at all.
No, that would.
No, I'd be reading him bedtime stories and shit. He's up in the bunk. I'm reading bedtime stories to him and trying to be as valuable as I fucking could to that dude.
Tonight we're going to read The Happy Little Bunny.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let's go ahead and get on with the main case.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Zodiac Killer. Now, we're going to go through a little bit of a timeline. It's like most people kind of know the, ins and outs of this case, but we'll kind of just go over it very briefly. Now, there have been many other cases that are like possible Zodiac cases that occurred before the first canonical one. So we'll get into those a little bit later. But the first crime that is definitively attributed to the Zodiac occurred on December 20th, 1968. And this is known nowadays as the Lake Herman Road attack.
Year before I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this was Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. They were high school students. David Faraday was 17. Betty Lou Jensen was 16. This was their first date. Actually, it was Betty Lou Jensen's first date with anyone.
Man, those are kids.
Yeah, they were high school kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was their first date. They were actually planning on, David had borrowed his mother's Rambler, and they were actually going to go to a Christmas concert at a high school nearby that was only a few blocks away. But then they decided, they were going to do some other stuff. They went and visited some friends. They went and ate at a restaurant. And then they decided that they were going to go up to Lake Herman Road, this kind of out of the way sort of road, kind of a known lover's lane that a lot of the teenagers and shit went up there. And I actually watched a documentary recently where Aphrodite Jones, that's
I remember
her name,
her.
right? That true crime writer.
Yeah.
She went to this place.
You're actually her replacement.
Yeah, okay.
I remember her, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know when this documentary was made, maybe 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
Maybe it was later. But she actually went to the same place, and it pretty much looks the same. It's very dark. There's no street lights. There's nothing really out there. So they go up there and park, and then about, they hadn't been there very long. I guess they were just sitting there in the car listening to the radio, and then all of a sudden, someone just walks up and shoots both of them with a .22 pistol.
Yeah.
Now, these two victims were both killed outright. By the time the cops got there, they were both dead. So
68.
Yeah, so actually they found David Faraday in the car. They actually found Betty Lou Jensen about 28 feet from the car. So she had actually jumped out of the car and tried to run away. And then the Zodiac shot her in the back 5 times.
That's really odd when you think about it. This guy must be really insecure about himself in terms of sexuality, because I think the average serial killer, or a lot of serial killers, would have tracked her down and raped her before he shot her.
He wasn't so much into the raping.
No.
He mostly...
Which tells me he couldn't deliver. He was kind of like one of these, what's these little dick motherfuckers, you know what I'm going to say. Remember him? Remember him? Yeah. For some reason, he thought the act of raping her would embarrass him.
It could be. He seemed,
so.
Like I said, he seemed more like... He didn't really get any... It almost seemed like he liked the hunt.
Yeah.
Sort of. He made like a lot of references to The Most Dangerous Game.
He's full of shit. He was inadequate.
Yeah, so he just liked going up and like shooting random people. Like I said, I think that he thought of himself, or he tried to portray himself as like this big badass and stuff, but really it was kind of cowardly because really he was just walking up to like teenagers in cars and just shooting into the car.
Yeah, I mean, these are little kids. I mean, how much older do you think he was? I bet you he wasn't that much older, really.
Well, some of the descriptions vary. One of the guys that survived that saw him said he was in his late 20s. He said 26 to 30.
Okay, so he's actually worse than I thought.
Yeah.
Because a 30-year-old man against teenagers?
That's what I mean. That's why it always seemed like kind of,
that's low-hanging fruit.
That's
I mean,
like,
it's not, you know, how was this big game hunting? As he portrays
that's
it?
what I always thought.
That's not
I was
big
like,
game
that's
hunting.
some bitch-ass bullshit.
That's bitch-ass
right there.
shit.
Yeah, that's what I always thought, too.
Right. I mean, if you're a serial killer that's, well, this is all about the hunt and the big game hunting, why aren't you tracking down cops?
Yeah.
That would be the big game.
Now,
or attack a police department. Something like that.
Well, I mean, there was a couple attacks later on that may have been him.
Yeah.
That actually may have been police related.
Yeah, killing little kids. That's,
but yeah,
that's
we'll see. But
shit.
but the first two that were attributed to him,
right,
were teenagers, 16-year-old and 17-year-old, and those were both killed. And that was a few days before Christmas in 1968.
That's terrible. First date, a few days before Christmas.
Yeah.
Fucking terrible.
I know, it's horrible.
Low down.
And, you know, so at this point, now, this is in Vallejo, California. I mean, there was hardly any crime. I mean, like, I've seen interviews with, like, a lot of the investigators and the cops that worked on the case and were at the scene.
The golden age of California.
They were like, this just never happened. It's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So it was just like a big deal. And obviously at this point, nobody knew it was a serial killer. They just thought it was some weird fucking random ass crime. But even from the beginning, they knew that there was no motive, and that's why they were like freaking out about it, because there's no way. It wasn't robbery, it wasn't rape, it wasn't anything. It's like he just shot them and left. That's it.
Very reminiscent of Son of Sam at this point.
Yeah. Now
another loser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said,
they're losers,
aren't they all?
Yeah.
But yeah. So the next one that is attributed to him happened actually on the 4th of July, 1969. This was Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau. Same kind of thing. They had driven to a sort of lover's lane kind of spot. It was at Blue Rock Springs Park. They were in the parking lot. That was also in Vallejo. This was about 4 miles away from the site of the first crime. So they were sitting in Darlene Ferrin's car. She had driven. She was in the driver's seat. And they were sitting there listening to the radio. And apparently what happened was this guy drives into the parking lot and pulls up beside them, but then drives away again. Then 10 minutes later, the same car comes back and pulls in right behind them, so they can't get out. Then they see this guy coming out, and he comes around to the passenger side where Michael Mageau was sitting, and he has a 9mm Luger.
Yeah.
And he starts shooting into the car. Now, at this point, some of the bullets, the first bullet, I believe, went through Michael Mageau's face, like it went through his throat or his jaw, and it came out like his cheek. Now, a lot of the bullets went through him and into her. Now, he panicked and, like, started climbing into the back seat. And then the killers kept shooting and shooting and through the driver's side and kept shooting Darlene. Now, he was also shining a flashlight in there, so they couldn't really get that good a look at his face. Now, he shot a bunch of times, and then he walked away. But then, evidently, he heard Michael Mageau or Darlene Ferrin groaning and came back and shot them both again 2 times each.
So there were no survivors?
No, Michael Mageau lived.
Okay.
Actually.
And he saw the weapon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Said it was a Luger.
Yes,
it was 9mm.
Yes.
It's weird because that's kind of a strange pistol to use in 68.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little technical things. I mean, the 9mm Luger pistol didn't shoot normal 9mm parabellum ammunition that you would find in 68.
Yeah.
It shot a special load called 9mm Luger, which was a lighter bullet and was shorter, and it was a milder load, because a Luger and 9mm is a toggle action firearm, which is a very archaic design. They are a pretty elegant pistol. They really are. I'm going to say he misidentified that pistol, because even in 68, that was kind of a out-of-date, kind of rare collector's pistol, more something that you would just keep at home than actually use.
Well,
I bet you it was a P38.
They did. Well, no, they did find shell casings, and also in one of the Zodiac's letters, he said that was the pistol he had used.
You did?
Yeah. Now, not in the
weird.
first attack. The first attack was a .22 caliber.
Right. The second one you said was a 9mm Luger.
The second one was 9mm Luger.
And
yep.
okay, well, they all use the same casings. It's just the load that goes inside the casings.
Yeah.
But he said it was a 9mm Luger. That's weird. I mean, there were more of them back in '68. You know, I know these firearms. More of them existed back in '68. I guess you could say in '68 it would have been a little bit more practical to use it back then than it would be today. But even back in '68, that was kind of an outdated pistol.
Yeah.
And it required you to buy 9mm Luger, which was 9mm Parabellum, loaded down to a little bit more mild. So that means you'd have to go to a store and specifically buy 9mm Luger load, which was, you could narrow down maybe who the purchaser was back then.
Yeah.
But maybe that's so long ago, and they didn't keep records for ammunition sales.
Yeah.
But that was just a weird choice, which tells me there's a chance that he didn't buy that gun, that he got that gun from his dad.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
That was a weapon that he actually inherited in some way. Wasn't something he went out and bought.
Yeah, could have been.
Right.
So
that might be a clue.
Okay, so about less than an hour after the attack, a call comes in to the Vallejo Police Department. And the guy that called says there's been a murder. Go to this area and you'll find the two kids in a brown car. And he said, oh, and by the way, I also killed those two kids last year. Now, the woman that took the dispatcher that took the call, she said that he had a very particular way of speaking. His voice was very monotone. And she said that at the end of the call, she said he made this really, really creepy, like, goodbye, like that. Like he was taunting them type of thing. So, so she heard that. So they go and they find. Now, when they got there, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were actually both still alive. Darlene Ferrin was pronounced dead at the hospital. Like she died on the way to the hospital. Michael Mageau survived, amazingly, even though he'd been shot a whole bunch of times in the face and the neck and stuff.
Yeah, there's a reason.
But
9mm Parabellum is in Full Metal Jacket. It does not make a very vicious wound.
Yeah.
And even 9mm Luger, which is a milder version of it, fires Full Metal Jacket. It's a lighter bullet. I think it was only 92 grains. Moving maybe like 1,050, maybe I think it was 1,050 coming out of something like a Luger. That particular load leaves a wound very similar to an ice pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can shoot somebody up with it and not cause a lot of traumatic damage. It can kill you. It's just that it's not very destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good stopping power.
But at this attack, evidently the killer was not wearing a mask or anything like that.
Yeah.
So Michael Mageau did see his face, but only kind of from the side, because of the flashlight, because of the trauma and everything like that. So he couldn't. But he did say that the killer looked about 26 to 30 years old. Yeah. That he was heavy set. He said not blubbery fat, but like beefy, like a big beefy build. Okay. He said about 195, 200 pounds, maybe more. Okay. He said he was about 5'8", white male, and he said he had short, light brown, curly hair. Huh. So that's how he described him. Now, this was the phone call came in on the morning of July 5th. Now, less than a month later, on August 1st, 1969, this is where the whole Zodiac mythos begins to kind of take hold. Because this is when the infamous Zodiac letters begin arriving. Now, the first ones to arrive, it was 3 letters. One of them came to the offices of the Vallejo Times-Herald, one came to the San Francisco Chronicle, and one came to the San Francisco Examiner. Now, each of these letters had a third of a 408-character cryptogram. Now, the killer said, he said which crimes he was responsible for, and he said, he wanted the cryptogram published on the front pages of the paper, or else he would kill a bunch more people. So, some of the newspapers, they weren't really sure if this was actually from the killer, if it was just a prank, how are you supposed to know? You don't know. So I think one of the newspapers actually did publish it on the front page. The other ones didn't. I think one published it on page 4, and then they put a letter next to it that said, if this is really the killer, send us more shit, so we know it's really you and stuff like that. But yeah, so they printed this cryptogram. Now he said that if you could solve the cryptogram, then it would say who he was, right? Well, only a day or two after the cryptogram was published, a teacher actually solved it. Other than like the last 18 letters, which have never been figured out, they're just gibberish. But the rest of the message, it said stuff like, I like killing people. It's so much more fun than killing wild game. Man is the most dangerous animal of all. And then he's saying he's collecting slaves for his afterlife. That's why he's killing these people. And then it says at the end of the cryptogram, it says, I'm not really going to give you my name because then you'll slow down my slave collection. And
he's
all this
tripping.
kind of shit. Yeah, it was just crazy shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I bet you even he didn't believe that.
No, probably not. So then about a week later, the San Francisco Examiner gets another letter. And this is the first one where the killer identifies himself as the Zodiac. Because it started out, Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. And he actually, in this one, he was actually responding to the Examiner printing the cryptogram and saying, we want more proof that this is you. And he gave a whole bunch of clues in the letter that, facts about the crimes that were not public knowledge, that only the killer would have known. So then at that point, they knew that it was actually him. So then the next attack that took place, this is the one that always scared me because I saw a movie, not like the David Fincher one that came out in 2007, which was based on Robert Graysmith's book, which is actually really, really good. But there was another one, and I can't remember what year it came out. It must have been like late 70s, early 80s, something like that. And this was the part that scared me the most, that like freaked me out so much. This is the Lake Berryessa attack. This happened on September 27th, 1969. This was Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. They were college students. And they were having a picnic out on Lake Berryessa. And Cecilia actually saw... She said to Brian, she's like, there's a man over there behind that tree. And she started getting like nervous about it. Now, what I didn't know until I watched a whole bunch of documentaries about it today was she saw his face. She saw him before he put the mask on. Because I guess he was peeking out from behind the tree, like looking.
Yeah.
And she was getting really nervous, and Brian was just like, whatever, he's just probably taking a leak or something. You know what I mean? So he was like kind of blowing it off. But then he comes out from behind the tree, and he's got on the whole getup, which is very famous now, like the executioner's hood. He has like those clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes. He has that kind of bib thing that has the Zodiac symbol on it.
Yeah.
You know, the little crosshair type thing.
The famous Zodiac outfit.
Yeah.
Like an executioner's hood.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
And he's holding a gun, and he's got a big knife, like a bayonet style
He's got
knife.
quite an imagination, that man.
He does, yeah. So
flair for the dramatics.
Yeah. Now this man was also later described as a white male. He was described as about 5'11". Other guys said 5'8", but well, I was close enough. Yeah. Said he was hefty, like beefy kind of guy, not fat, but just like kind of a big beefy dude. He said that he had kind of greasy brown hair. Now he came up to them. Brian Hartnell said he thought the gun was a .45, but he wasn't real sure. So the guy says to them that he's like, I just want your money and your car. I escaped from prison and I killed a guard. I think he said he escaped from prison in Montana. And he's like, and the car I have now is, it's stolen, it's hot, so I need your car. So, they were cooperating. They were like, okay, just take whatever you want. Now, he made Cecilia tie up Brian, and then he tied her up. But see, Cecilia tried to tie up Brian, like, loosely, but Zodiac checked, and he, like, tightened it all up. So they were, like, hog-tied on this blanket, like, face down. And evidently Brian Hartnell was like trying to talk with the guy and was trying to kind of reason with him. Yeah, just take what you want. You know, I don't have much money, but you can have it. You can have my car. It's up there on the road or whatever. And all this other kind of stuff. And then at that point, the Zodiac is like, well, I'm just going to have to kill you. And then he just starts stabbing. Like, he didn't shoot them. He just stabbed them. He just stabbed him and stabbed him and stabbed him and stabbed him over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, what I didn't realize, again, until I watched a thing, and I actually saw an interview with Brian Hartnell, who actually survived the attack. Cecilia Shepard did not.
It's amazing that he survived that.
It is, yeah. He was stabbed a whole bunch of times. And the scary thing was, I didn't realize, but they both got stabbed and they were both tied up. And then the guy took off, and they were laying there for a really long time before anybody helped them. They were like yelling. They said boats were going by, but like either people didn't hear them or thought they were just fucking around or whatever. And then finally they said this boat came by with a guy and like a younger guy. So she was alive
too for a while.
Yeah, they were both alive for a while.
Okay.
And actually she managed to get loosen up kind of, they were trying to untie each other's hands.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to like roll over, and so he actually kind of got loose, and he was able to get loose, and he was gonna try and go get help, but then when he stood up he kept passing out because because of blood loss.
Yeah.
So they actually did try to get away, but then finally this boat comes by with a guy and his son in it, and they went to a park ranger and reported, but so they laid there for a long time like losing blood.
Yeah.
Again, so Brian Hartnell survived, Cecilia did not. Now, up on Brian Hartnell's car, which was parked up on the road, they found that the Zodiac had written with a kind of a felt tip pen or a marker on the side of the door, on the side of the car door, and he had made his little Zodiac symbol, and then he wrote Vallejo 12/20/68, which was the Lake Herman Road attack, 7/4/69, which was the Blue Rock Springs attack, September 27th, 69, which was the one he just did. Then he put 6/30, and then underneath he put by knife.
Yeah.
So
I remember seeing photos of it.
Yeah, so yeah, there's photos of it,
He had terrible handwriting too.
It was very terrible. And his spelling was also atrocious.
Yeah, like a little kid.
Yeah. So just like in the previous attack, about an hour after this particular attack, the Napa County Sheriff's Office gets a phone call. And the person on the other end of the line says, I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. Then he's like, oh, and by the way, I did it. Now, they were able to trace the call to a payphone by the Napa Car Wash. And they found the phone. When they found the phone, the receiver was still hanging off the hook. And they were actually able to lift a partial palm print, because it was still like a damp palm print like on the receiver of the phone from the killer. Now, what the Zodiac would do is that, I mean, the payphone, it was like 27, 30 miles from the crime scene, but it was real close to a police station. So he almost really liked, he would like kill people, then he'd drive a long way, like to really close to a police station, and then call from right there. Because it was almost like a bigger challenge, I guess, because he was like, hey, I'm right here and you can't catch me or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, that happened a couple of times. So, as I said, Cecilia Shepard was actually conscious for a little while and did give a description of the killer to police because, as I said, she had actually seen him peeking out from behind the tree before he put his mask on. So they were able to get a statement from her. Unfortunately, she passed away. She went into a coma in the ambulance and then died later on without ever regaining consciousness. Yeah. And then, yeah, she died 2 days later. But Brian Hartnell did actually survive. Now, the last attack that is definitively attributed to the Zodiac was a little bit of a, kind of a deviation from his regular pattern. And it happened 2 weeks later. This happened on October 11th, 1969. And a guy gets into a cab driven by 29-year-old Paul Stein, and he asks to go to Washington and Maple Streets in Presidio Heights neighborhood, which is kind of an upper-class area of San Francisco. So evidently Stein drives to Maple, but he goes one block past, then he pulls over to the side of the road, and then someone shoots him in the back of the head. Now, interestingly, there were 3 teenagers who were at a house like across the street, like on the 2nd or 3rd floor, and they were out on a balcony or happened to be looking out a window, and they saw the crime occurring. They saw the guy get out of the cab and start wiping down the cab. So they called the cops, as you would.
Was he wearing a mask?
No.
Okay.
So actually the very famous sketch of the Zodiac killer, see with the guy with the glasses and stuff like that, that is where this comes from. This comes from their description of the guy that they saw getting out of the cab after Paul Stine got shot. So Paul Stine was also shot with a 9mm. Now the killer took his wallet and took his car keys and also tore off a bit of his shirt tail, which had blood on it. But yeah, so Paul Stine was dead at the scene. Like I said, this was kind of unusual because usually he targeted people, you know, couples in cars. They don't know exactly why he specifically just shot this cab driver for whatever reason. Now, the interesting thing about this is kind of, you know, some people say this is like, oh, well, they could have caught the Zodiac at this point because evidently the cops get there not too long after, because like I said, the teenagers called it in like while it was still going on, like while the guy was still there. So the cops were kind of around and they got there and they see like this one officer, Don Falk. He's only 2 blocks away from the crime scene and he sees a guy walking along the sidewalk and kind of stepping up into a house. But he said that this guy, now see at this point, I don't know if the teenagers reported it wrong or if the dispatcher took it down wrong. But the first report that went on the radio for the suspect was, this is a black man. Even though it wasn't, it was a white man. But they're not really showing wires got crossed somewhere and it was like an erroneous statement.
Yeah.
It was just a mistake.
Yeah.
So some people have said, well, the guy that Falk saw walking down the street, because he said, oh, well, I saw somebody that said, hey, did you see somebody walking along here? And he said, yeah, I saw a guy running up toward the Presidio, like the park.
Probably what it was is they saw a guy wearing black. Because the Zodiac wore evidently black.
Yeah, it might have
black
been.
Hood, so they probably just saw somebody wearing a black. Got mixed around, but it was a black man.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the guy that Falk saw, he said that it looked like an older guy, like a guy in his 40s. And the guy that the teenagers said that they saw getting out of the cab was younger, like some of the other people had said the Zodiac was, like you know, mid to late 20s.
Maybe
So a few days after Paul Stine gets shot, the Chronicle gets another letter from the Zodiac, and they know it's from him because in the letter is the piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt that the killer tore off of the guy before he got out of the cab. And the letter said that he was going to target a school bus, that he was going to shoot out the tires, and then he was going to shoot all the kids, like pick them off as they came out of the school bus. Yeah.
I remember that. I actually read that letter. There was more to it than that, too.
Well, most of them are.
He had some, like, photo sensors with fucking drawings of photo sensors with, like, I guess you could say certain types of explosives that would throw rocks.
He had all kind of, like, bombs and stuff like that.
They were kind of worried about that in one of the books that I read. They thought the guy might have had some explosives knowledge.
Well, the thing about, because a lot of the diagrams that he sent looked like they would actually work.
Yeah.
And he was going around shooting random people, so you can't, any threat he makes, you have to take it seriously, because what if he really does that shit?
Yeah, now Stein, what was he shot with?
That was also a 9mm.
Okay, so it must have been that Luger.
Yeah.
They think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so he's using the same gun.
Yeah.
And this is about how long later? It's in the same year, right?
Yeah, this was, he got shot on October 11th, 1969.
Yeah.
And then the letter talking about it came 3 days later.
No, I'm talking about the first time he used the 9mm. That was about, a year before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, like I said, the first crime, it was a .22.
Yeah, the .22
but
and then a 9mm.
9mm, yeah.
And then about a year or so later, he still used the 9mm again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if I remember correctly, he stops using that 9mm and switches to a .45.
Well, no, because this was his last one.
It was?
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a drawing of him with the executioner's hood on.
That was the Lake Berryessa attack, and
Okay.
Brian Hartnell said he thought it was a 45, but those victims weren't shot; they were stabbed.
Okay.
He had it in his hand, but he didn't use it.
Because I can really remember the picture of him in his hand he was carrying in 1911. But nothing was fired. He may have misidentified that 9mm as a 45. So the artist just drew a 1911 45. Yeah.
Yeah, he might have.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was another letter. Now, a few days after that, a phone call comes in to the Oakland Police Department. And this is somebody claiming to be the Zodiac. And this person said, I want either F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belli, who were very famous attorneys in the area. I want them to be on the radio show AM San Francisco, and I'm going to call in and talk to them. So F. Lee Bailey was not available, so Melvin Belli said he would do it. Now, this guy called in and claimed he was the Zodiac. He said you could call him Sam. And you can actually hear the audio of it, online. It's everywhere if you just do the search for it. Now, the interesting thing about this, though, is that the dispatcher, the woman at the Vallejo Police Department who had taken the first phone call up from the Zodiac that was claiming responsibility for the murders, said that doesn't sound like his voice. And also the survivor said it didn't sound like his voice either. Now, evidently, according to ZodiacCiphers.com and ZodiacKiller.com, which are kind of like these huge databases of information about these sites. It's like thousands and thousands of pages. Apparently, this call was traced, and it was a prank. Okay. It was from a guy named Eric Weil, and he was calling from a mental hospital, actually.
Okay.
And there was some other shit about him, too. Like, he did all kind of weird shit with Bob Dylan and stuff. But, he was just like a random weirdo.
Random weirdo.
So that they're pretty sure that wasn't him. But like I said, people that had heard the actual Zodiac's voice, they knew that wasn't him. They said that doesn't sound like his voice. Because they said the Zodiac had a very distinctive voice. Like you would know it if you heard it.
So, they didn't describe it, though, as a deep voice?
Well, they said it was kind of a deep voice, very monotone.
Okay.
That was one thing that a bunch of them said. But they said it was very deep. Whereas the guy that called in as Sam had a slightly higher pitched, more tenor kind of voice. So yeah, it didn't really sound the same. So the Zodiac keeps sending more cards. There's one on November 8th that had another cryptogram. This one has actually never been solved. I don't know if it actually means anything or if it's just gibberish that he was just doing it to toy with the authorities, which he seemed to like to do. So maybe it didn't mean anything, but it still hasn't been solved. And then November 9th of 1969, the Zodiac sent a really long letter. It was like 7 pages. And in this, he actually claimed, and this might go back to what Officer Falk was saying about seeing this guy after Paul Stein got shot. The Zodiac claimed, he's like, 2 cops stopped me and talked to me 3 minutes after I shot Paul Stein, and they didn't know it was me, and they let me go. So that might have, I don't know if he was just making that up.
He made that up.
But,
lie.
But I don't think there were 2 cops. I think it was just one cop, and he saw a guy. And the guy he saw, like I said, didn't sound... He was like a slender guy that was older.
I don't buy that.
Yeah, so
he's bragging.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's... Because I think he was just trying to make them look like dumbasses.
He's trying to humiliate the police.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Because he did say stuff to them like, get off your fat asses, the more you fiddle and fart around.
Cops would have remembered that they talked to a guy within around that same time that homicide went down. They would have remembered that.
Right. Now, kind of the next major thing that happened, and they're pretty sure that this was actually a Zodiac attack. It was actually kind of a close call. This happened in Modesto on March 22nd, 1970, and this was a woman named Kathleen Johns. She was 7 months pregnant, and she was traveling with her 10-month-old daughter in the front seat of her car. She was actually driving from San Bernardino to Petaluma. She was going to visit her mother. She's on the highway, Highway 132, and the car behind her starts honking its horn and flashing its headlights and all this other stuff. And, and she's like, what the hell? Maybe something's wrong with my car. So she pulled over, and this guy pulls in behind her. He comes up to her, and he says, I noticed that what your rear driver's side wheel was like, was wobbling. The lug nuts are probably loose. I'll fix it for you. So she's like, okay, thanks. So he goes back there and fucks around. He's like, okay, fine now. And then he drives away. Now she goes to pull back on the highway, and the wheel falls off.
He loosened him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I bet she didn't figure that out, though. It's like, so the guy comes back and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, man, look at that. He's like, well, I'll drive you and the baby to a garage.
Right.
So they get in his car. Now, he drives them around for like an hour and a half. Like, she's driving around and she's like, hey, we're passing all these gas stations. What the fuck? And then he kept like deflecting her questions. Now, finally, reports differ. Some said that she grabbed the baby and jumped out of the car while it was moving. Some said she jumped out of the car while it was stopped at a stop sign or a stoplight or whatever. But at any rate, her and the baby jumped the fuck out of the car and ran and like laid down and hid in a field. Sources also differ about whether the guy then got out of the car with a flashlight to look for her or whether he just took off. But at any rate, you know, she hid long enough and he eventually left when other cars started coming by. She got a lift to the nearest police station with a woman that was passing. And she goes to the police station to make a report. And she looks up on the wall and she sees the police sketch of the man that killed Paul Stein, who is the Zodiac. She says, that's him. That's the guy that just picked me up. So they, so then later they go out and they find her car and it's been all burned out. Somebody set it on fire.
Huh. He went back there.
Yeah, so he went back and set her car on fire, evidently. So whether, no one is absolutely positive that this was the Zodiac, but... And I don't know, because in one report she said that he said that he was going to kill her and the baby. You know, in another report she said he didn't say that. But so, you know what I mean? It's like there's all this kind of he said, she said, and all the different sources and shit.
Where did this happen again?
This was in, it was on Highway 132 in Modesto.
Modesto.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering maybe if that might have just been some random crime. Because
it's possible.
Yeah, because if there was an abandoned car with the wheel gone, could somebody have just driven by and go, I'm going to burn that car.
I'm going to person on fire.
So, but Modesto, I would think in 68 would have been kind of rural.
Yeah.
Or suburban.
Yeah. But this is generally, because this is under, this isn't under confirmed Zodiac attacks, but this is under like suspected Zodiac attacks.
It doesn't sound like Zodiac, actually.
It doesn't, though.
Zodiac usually would kill a person as soon as he sees them. It's
Yeah.
like, there they are, and then he shoots them and or stabs them and leaves.
Yeah, and I mean, she saw his face. Like,
And then-
she was driving around with him in a car
And you
for
would think
an
that
hour and a half.
You would think that Zodiac would have been kind of skeptical about going back to where he left that car and putting himself in danger and setting that thing on fire.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That'd be kind of risky.
Although shooting a cab driver in the middle of a residential street is also pretty risky, and they're pretty sure he did that.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a kind of thing where it was just like ramping up, you know?
Did he confess to that?
He did, yeah. Well, they knew he did it because the letter he sent had the guy's shirt.
That's right.
So at this point, then he starts just like sending them, like, he evidently did not kill any more people that they know of, but he kept, what?
Here's a question, though. So he's got a pregnant woman in his car.
Yeah. And
with
a baby.
with a kid.
Yeah.
What'd you say, 9 years old?
10 months old.
10 months old.
A baby.
Baby, yeah. Why didn't he kill him immediately? If he would kill a taxi cab driver in the middle of a residential area, why didn't he just gun them down? This, to me, what I'm thinking is this particular report sounds like an attempted rape to me.
Yeah, possibly.
That's just what it sounds like. I'm going to kind of lean towards that, and that may have not have been the Zodiac.
It might not have been.
But there's no way of actually knowing.
And like I said, the fact that she came into the police station and said, "Hey, that was the guy," you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like that guy looks like a lot of guys, so I don't know.
This sounds like the Zodiac usually just killed people pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Like an ambush attack.
It does seem like that.
Yeah, he would have it would have been more likely that he would have walked up to her while she was in the car and just shot her and the kid and then walked off. All this stuff about ruses to get her into his car, that just didn't sound like something he would do.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like you usually abduct someone so you can rape them.
Yeah.
And as far as we know, confirmed Zodiac killings didn't really involve any abduction.
No, he usually just killed
him
him
on the spot.
Yeah.
Right.
He didn't like dump him anywhere.
There's a good chance that is not a Zodiac attack. Zodiac attack? Shit, I ought to make a song for that.
There's probably already a song called that, I bet. There's
Right.
probably also a band called that.
Zodiac Attack.
I would think.
I come up with some cool shit. I got a feeling that isn't Zodiac.
It may not be, like I said, but it's suspected. It's suspected just because she identified, and they know that the Zodiac killed Paul Stein. So, and the fact that she identified the same perp, So it's possible.
Kind of a common description, though. Kind of a meaty
like
white
I
dude
said,
with curly hair. You know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a lot of dudes looked like that back then. So then there were some more letters, a couple more ciphers that have not been decrypted as of this stage. He would take credit for more crimes. Because sometimes at the bottom of the letters he would have like a little like body count. So he would have like his little symbol.
I remember that.
And then he'd be like one of the ones that he sent in February 1970. He had his little symbol, and then he said equals 10. And then San Francisco Police Department 0. Like, I've killed 10 people and you haven't caught me for any of them. So, at this point, they only knew about him attacking 7 people and killing 5 people because 2 of them survived. Now, he actually did say that there had been an attack in February 18th. There was a bombing that killed a cop, Sergeant Brian McDonnell. And he actually said that wasn't him. Even though he said that it was much better hunting cops because they can shoot back. Yeah. Like, better than shoot civilians.
Yeah, whatever.
Then, yeah. So,
I don't think this guy had the balls.
Then he started, he would send, greeting cards, threatening to bomb places. He sent maps with, these kind of radian type things on it. Oh, there's a bomb here that's going to go off in a few months, and they never found anything. Right. And he wanted people to wear buttons, pins with his symbol on it, or I'm going to blow shit up if you don't wear those, even though I don't think anybody ever did. No. But yeah, because he kept writing and saying he was upset that nobody was wearing them and all this other stuff. Now, one letter that he wrote, and I thought this was actually kind of interesting. He wrote a letter, it was postmarked June 26th, 1970, and he wrote in it, "I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. Now, this might have referred, because a lot of times he would say I did this and that, and they couldn't really find a crime that corresponded to it. But this one, there was one, and this was actually a cop. His name was Sergeant Richard, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Raditich, I guess is how you pronounce it, Richard Raditich. And this had been a week earlier, on June 19th. He was writing a parking ticket. He was sitting in his squad car writing a parking ticket, and somebody just came up and shot him in the head with a .38. So they don't know. The San Francisco Police Department said no, this wasn't the Zodiac, but the Zodiac did say that he shot a man with a .38 in the car.
He may have read that in a newspaper.
He could have, yeah, because it had happened a week earlier. Right. And like I said, that's the thing, they don't know, because sometimes he would say, yeah, I killed this many people, and he would take credit for things. Yeah. Because he did later take credit in a letter for the Kathleen Johnson. He didn't name her. Yeah. But he said he referred to a woman and her baby that I gave an interesting ride to. Right. One night and stuff. But like you said, that could have been, he could have just read in the paper and then be like, oh, I'm taking credit for that shit. Right. So maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
I was under the impression that he got to a point where he realized he didn't actually have to commit the crimes. He could just
take credit
because
for
what he started to say was, I'm going to break my pattern and not leave my sign there, and you'll never know it was me. Yeah. So you won't know if I did it or if somebody else did it. That was in a way kind of copping out of the whole serial killer.
He got lazy
with a whole serial killer thing with leaving your damn sign behind and everything. Yeah. It was a way of kind of getting out of it and taking credit for other people's homicides. Yeah. And I really kind of think he only killed 3?
5.
They've confirmed that?
Yes.
The one woman, okay, and then the 2 Lovers Lane ones, and who were the other 2?
No, there were 3. Well, there were 2 Lovers Lane. There was one that was on the beach, the picnicking, and then there was the cab driver.
Okay, yes.
It was 7
4
people. Yeah. But 2 survived, so it was 5 deaths.
That's what I was saying, 5? Okay.
Yeah.
I bet you that was all he got. I think that was it.
Well, that's all that's confirmed.
Right.
Like I said. Now, there are some other similar crimes that happened before that and happened after that may have been him. Right. But they're not real sure. So
I think he got lazy and got scared. I think he got scared. I think he thought he was going to get caught. So he started to give him ways out of actually having to commit the murders and giving himself ways to take credit for other people's murders. Yeah. Now that was even the theory that some of the investigators had back in those days, because I read the books that they wrote. Yeah. That he was pussing out, actually. He was trying to just take credit for other people's murders. He didn't want to murder people anymore. Yeah. I think he figured he's going to get caught.
But so here's the interesting thing too, is that as the years went on, some crimes that had happened prior to the Lake Herman road attack in 1968, which is the first one, were later seen as like suspected. Yeah. And the first of these, probably the most famous of these, was the murder of Sherry Jo Bates. Now, this came to the attention of Paul Avery, who worked for the San Francisco Chronicle, and he had actually been writing articles about the Zodiac, and so the Zodiac had actually sent him a lot of letters and cards, like, in particular. And, but at this point, like, Paul Avery got an anonymous letter that said, look into the murder of Sherry Jo Bates from 1966 in Riverside, and that might be a connection with the Zodiac. It happened on October 30th, 1966, and 18-year-old Sherry Jo Bates, she had actually gone to, she was a student at Riverside Community College. She had gone to the library there to do some studying for a term paper that she had coming up. She was there for about 3 hours. She left when it closed at about 9 o'clock. She had a Volkswagen Beetle that was parked about 100 yards from the building. Evidently, she went to start it and it wouldn't start. They found out why later on. They found her the next morning kind of between these two abandoned houses. She had been beaten and stabbed to death. They found out that all the wires from the Volkswagen's distributor cap had been pulled out, so they assumed that the killer had, while she was inside, had fucked up her car, and then when she came out and it wouldn't start, he came over and said, hey, let me help you, and then he fucking killed her. So, this particular crime, for whatever reason, later on, the Zodiac said something to the effect in one of his communications that, oh, I see you've discovered my Riverside activity. But you guys are just finding the easy ones. So they're speculating that this might have been him as well. But, you know, there were some other suspects for that as well. This is actually, Sherry Jo Bates is actually in my book, and I kind of talk about some of the other suspects in there. So the weird thing, though, is that later on, after Sherry Jo Bates was killed, and this is going back to 1966, in late November, there were all these letters that were sent to, one was sent to the Riverside Police, one was sent to the Riverside Press Enterprise, and I think one was sent to Sherry Jo Bates' dad, and it was called The Confession. And in it, the person wrote that they are the one that had killed him, and it's like, she won't be the first, she wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. And then a month later, they found like a poem that was in the library that she had been in. And somebody had written something like sick of living, unwilling to die with all this poem. And the handwriting looked very much like the handwriting in the Zodiac letters. And like I said, this was 2 years before the Lake Herman road attack, the first canonical. This was 1966 that they found this stuff. So they just didn't associate it because the Zodiac hadn't done anything yet. They didn't even know who the Zodiac was. But so there was some kind of reason for thinking that maybe he had, because, you know, he had sent similarly worded confessions to newspapers in the Riverside area after she was killed. So that was one. Now another one that's suspected is happened in March of 1971. Or it actually happened in September of 1970, but they didn't find out that it might have been related to the Zodiac until March of 1971, because the Zodiac sent a postcard to Paul Avery, and it had like these weird, it had like a picture from an advertisement. It had like all these weird phrases like cut out and pasted on there that said stuff like sought victim 12, past Lake Tahoe areas, around in the snow. It said stuff like that. And they thought that maybe it was referring to the disappearance and probable murder of Donna Lass, who disappeared in September of 1970. She was actually a nurse, and she had just come off her shift, and then she disappeared. Her body has never been found. But the weird thing was that after the night she disappeared, the next day, her landlord and her employer got phone calls from a random dude saying, oh, she had a family emergency and she had to leave town, which was not true. So there was that whole thing too. Like I said, this is another suspected Zodiac crime. He seemed to take credit for it in a sort of oblique way, but she has never been found. She is just a missing person.
It's just too I don't know. I mean, he could have read about these cases and.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, and that's why they're not sure. That's why they don't want to
Yeah.
say it's not a confirmed Zodiac kill because they're not sure. He might just be claiming that he did it.
He strikes me as a guy that takes credit for everybody he killed and then tries to take credit for people he didn't kill.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's trying to magnify himself.
Yeah.
And these guys lie.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of think it's the five core killings.
Because, I mean, his last letter because a bunch of letters came that they determined were probably not him, that were like pranks, you know, just people fucking around. The last one that they are pretty sure is him is generally referred to as the Exorcist letter because he praises the movie The Exorcist as being the best satirical comedy I've ever seen. And he also put some like lyrics from the Mikado, the Gilbert and Sullivan musical, in there. And he in this letter he claims that he's killed 37 people.
Oh, he's a liar.
Yeah, so like I said, they don't know. But like I said, there have been some other kind of similar murders that people have sort of laid at the feet. And if you go to Zodiac Ciphers or ZodiacKiller.com, there's a whole shit ton of them in there. They're like kind of similar that, you know, you can read about that happened in the same area at around the same time. But some of the ones that most people talk about when they're talking about possible Zodiac crimes, probably the most infamous one other than Sherry Jo Bates, is Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards, who were actually shot on Gaviota Beach. They were actually out there. It was senior ditch day. They were graduating high school, and they went out to this remote beach to like, you know, kind of have a good time and everything. And evidently they found their bodies in this like weird shack, like a hobo shack. And they had both been shot a whole bunch of times in the back. It looked like the killer had like tried to shoot them or like they were trying to run away, and then he just gunned them down. And then for some reason he dragged them back and put them in this shack. And he put the guy, Robert Domingos, he put him face down on the floor, and then he put Linda on her back on top of him, and then cut the top of her bathing suit off so that her boobs were sticking out, even though she wasn't raped or anything like that. Now, some of the crime scene, it said it looked like somebody had tried to burn down the shack. But they're not actually sure if that happened because of the bodies or if that had happened at some prior time. The main suspect in this was actually a guy named George Edward Gill, who was kind of a drifter type of dude. But actually, I believe they determined that he was out of town when that shooting happened. Although he was the guy that had actually built that little shack there.
Did they identify the caliber?
That was also a .22, I think.
Doesn't sound. It just doesn't sound. It doesn't sound like a Zodiac killing to me.
Yeah.
He didn't move bodies.
That's something that a lot of people have said, that's not something that he would do.
And then why would he burn it down? He'd like to present his bodies. He wanted to.
That's another point that's been made. Right. Yeah, that wasn't like his. But you know, like I said, the Domingos Edwards murders, you know, that kind of happened, you know, a little bit earlier. So I don't know. Who knows? There were actually a couple other ones.
Yeah, there were area and people got shot while they're. It's just coincidence.
There were a couple other ones. Beverly Allen and Larry Payton. They were actually that was actually kind of similar. They were both
the two people that we just talked about though. That was an attempted rape. He was trying to rape that girl. He killed the dude. It didn't went wrong. He killed them both. That's what happened. Yeah. And he tried to hide it. Tried to cover it up. That's not Zodiac.
Yeah, but like I said, it's one that comes up a lot.
It comes up, but I'm telling you that's a different MO.
But like I said, it was a different time. So you know, a lot of his other crimes had different MO and stuff too. There was another crime. This is actually going back to 1964. This was Johnny and Joyce Swindle. They were actually in San Diego. They were on their honeymoon. They were I think they were only 19 or 20 years old. They were walking along the beach, like near their hotel, and somebody just shot them from a sniper's point, like on a retaining wall, not that far away. And then after they fell to the ground, came closer and shot them at close range and then took off. So that's another one.
That sounds more like a Zodiac.
Yeah, that actually does kind of sound like a Zodiac kind of crime. So yeah, that was 1964. So that's a possible early one too.
I had this feeling in my heart though, that's hard to fucking explain, that when Zodiac actually did kill someone, he left something at the scene to let people know that it was him, to take credit. Yeah. All this stuff that he was writing to the cops, well, I'm going to stop leaving my mark. Bullshit. I don't believe that I think he was just trying to put fear in the police to make them think that he was killing more people than he really was.
Well, I saw one documentary about it, and I like that the woman on there just called him a straight-up terrorist. That's exactly what he was. It's like, even if he didn't do anything, like, yeah, he did kill people, but even at that point, he didn't have to kill anybody. All he had to do was threaten to do it, because he'd done it a couple of times, and everyone was just going to, like, hop to and, like, freak out about it.
But if you're an active serial killer, what you're going to do is you're going to do both things at once. You're going to tell them, I'm going to hide some of my crimes, and then some of my other crimes, I'll let you know it's me. So what you do is you mark every crime that you commit, and then infer that you did all the ones you didn't commit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make it look bigger. There's no reason to kill someone and not leave your mark.
Yeah.
No matter what. If you're going to leave your mark, then if you're going to kill someone, leave the mark. Get the credit.
Yeah.
And then to try to steal the credit for the ones that you didn't do. That'll make your footprint look bigger. That's why I'm saying that. The ones that didn't have his mark on them, I don't think he did those. The one that you just talked about, sniping somebody, sniping them and then killing it and then disappearing, that's actually kind of like his MO. You bushwhack someone and run.
And like I said, that was 4 years before the first canonical Zodiac crime, and that was in San Diego.
Yeah, maybe he hadn't thought of leaving a mark at that time.
There was actually another one that
I do notice one thing, though, before you go to the next case, is that when he stabbed that girl, whenever he stabbed that girl to death, she died later, he stabbed the girl more times than he killed the guy. Which tells me that dude couldn't get it up.
Yeah, they're presuming that he was a woman hater type person.
Yeah, and he couldn't get it up, so he couldn't rape these people.
Yeah.
So there was no reason to abduct someone for rape. He couldn't do it. That's what I think.
Yeah. Now, there was an even earlier one. This happened in 1960, and I think I just mentioned it briefly before. Beverly Allen and Larry Payton. They were both 19, and they were both also shot in a Lover's Lane. Now, one thing that was kind of different to the regular Zodiac crime was that now they found Larry's body still in the car. He had evidently tried to shoot back because he had a gun in his in a glove compartment, because there was a shot through the windshield that they presumed came from his gun. Mm-hmm. So he had actually tried to fight back. Now, they didn't find Beverly Allen for a few months.
His pistol was still there?
Yeah.
So Zodiac didn't take it?
No.
Weird, okay.
But yeah, he was all bloody. They knew
that makes sense, though. If you take something from the scene, then you're linked to it. So he left it. You're right.
I mean, they knew Beverly Allen had to be dead because, I mean, they found him. They found Larry Payton. He was all fucked up and shot up. Yeah. They found her jacket. It was all covered with blood. They found a piece of her bloody blouse, like, under his body. They found her busted up glasses. But they found her later on. Now, that's a little bit unlike Zodiac. Like I said, it's not like him to, like, transport a victim to someone else. But like I said, this was 8 years prior to the first canonical Zodiac attack. So now there were two guys convicted.
8 years is a long time, though.
There were two guys convicted for this crime, Edward Jorgensen and Robert Brahm. Now, they both got life sentences, but then the weird thing was they got paroled, like, really, really quick. Almost like somebody didn't think they actually did it.
Maybe maybe the evidence was bad.
Yeah, so that's kind of what made people think maybe it wasn't. Although I think one of the early suspects in this, and I want to talk about him a little bit, was Edward Wayne Edwards, who was an actual serial killer.
Yeah, he sounds familiar.
Yeah, and actually I think he probably killed more people than he's given credit for. And some people have suspected that he might have been the Zodiac as well, because he was into killing couples at lovers' lanes. And he was actually convicted for 2 of those type of crimes, and he was suspected in many other similar type of crimes, just, gunning down people in cars.
That last one, though, 8 years before canonical.
Yeah.
That would have made him very young.
He would have been very young, yeah.
And I can't see...
Unless the witnesses got the age wrong. They're not real sure.
I just can't see a serial killer going active and then not start really acting up for a whole 8 years. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then, 8 years later, he starts doing all this shit about leaving signs and contacting the cops. It sounds unlikely. It sounds like there's something that would be something that you would do within months of your first crime.
Yeah.
Or weeks.
Now, let's talk a little bit about probably the best-known Zodiac suspect, and this is probably because of Robert Graysmith's books about the crime, and also the 2007 David Fincher movie, which was based on his books, which was just called Zodiac, and that would be Arthur Lee Allen.
Matter of fact, that book you're talking about is the book I read, I believe.
Yeah. Well, he wrote two. He wrote one just called Zodiac and one that I think was called Zodiac Unmasked.
Yeah.
But, so Arthur Lee Allen has been the prime suspect for a long time, and it's kind of easy to see why. He sort of looked like the sketches. He was sort of a big, beefy guy. Although he was taller than, but he was about 6'1".
And he was a goofball.
Which made me kind of think.
Yeah.
And now some people did think he was kind of a weird. He was a pedophile. That they do know, and he did actually get convicted of that later on. And even all his family members were like, yeah, we kept our children away from him because he had a thing. And he got fired from several jobs for that also. But he actually, he came to the attention, I think, after the Lake Berryessa attack because he'd been in the area scuba diving. And the weird thing about him was that when they brought him in, he seemed to like volunteer information that they didn't really ask for. Like, yeah, I had a bloody knife in my car, but it was from a chicken that I killed. It wasn't people. It, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, and they didn't really ask him about that. Now, one of the things that they thought was interesting was that he had a watch that was Zodiac brand.
Yeah,
I guess it's a Swiss brand of a watch.
I remember him.
And the logo is that little
the
crosshair symbol.
Yeah,
and it was just on his watch. And he said, yeah, my mom gave it to me for a present like 2 years ago.
Yeah, they had commercials for him. Mm-hmm. I remember him.
Yeah. So they thought that was kind of strange. Now, you know, he, like I said, he was a weird dude. He was a pedophile. He did live in the area and was familiar with the area. So they pretty much pursued this guy, you know, over and over, like over the age. They did many search warrants and stuff. Although when they searched his house, he literally lived in his mom's basement, like you do. And they didn't really find... Now, they found some alarming things. They found that he had an arsenal, even though he wasn't supposed to have it because he was, you know, on probation or on parole or whatever for the pedophilia type stuff. They also found a bunch of shit for making bombs. And they found some actual pipe bombs. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't arrest him for that, but they didn't.
It wasn't as strict back then.
But they didn't find anything that linked him, and as many search warrants as they, you know, as they went through over the years, because they did it many, many times. They never found anything that would link him to any of the victims, because they were looking for any kind of trophy or anything that would lead him to it. And he had a friend named Don Chaney, and apparently Don Chaney said that we were out hunting one day, me and Arthur Lee Allen. And he specifically told me, like, before this was before, you know, the first Zodiac killing. He's like, he specifically told me, hey, yeah, I've been reading The Most Dangerous Game, and that's like my favorite story. And I'm going to hunt people, and I'm going to call myself the Zodiac, and I'm just going to shoot people I'm going to tie a flashlight to my gun. And he said that he specifically said something about shooting out the tires of a bus and killing the kids when they come out. And like,
Sounds like a setup to me.
Yeah, he said like a lot of things like that. Now, some people have said Don Chaney is a credible dude. Some people say not so much, that he's just making stuff up. So I don't really know. Now, what I do know... Now, like everybody else, when I read Robert Graysmith's book, when I saw the movie Zodiac in 2007, I was like, well, obviously, that's the dude, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, so he actually died. When he died, DNA wasn't really a thing. It was just kind of in its infancy. But the investigators had the presence of mind to, like, freeze some portions of his brain just in case they needed it later on.
What little brain he had.
Yeah, I guess so. So they kept it. Now, when they were able in the past few years to get a partial DNA profile off the stamps and the letter flaps from the Zodiac letters, it wasn't a match. It didn't match him. It didn't match Don Chaney, his friend, either. So... And also, his fingerprints did not match the fingerprint that they found on Paul Stine's cab. His palm print did not match the latent palm print that they found on one of the Zodiac letters. And his handwriting, they made him write the Zodiac letters because he was ambidextrous. So they made him write them with both hands, and the handwriting was not a match.
Yeah, he was kind of a super loser. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'm not. He was a scumbag for sure.
I don't believe he did it. I think he did all that for attention.
Yeah,
he aspired to be.
I
the
kind of
Zodiac,
feel like
actually.
he was just playing around with the cops.
Yeah, and I think his buddy was helping him.
And he actually was on the news. Like they interviewed him. Like I saw like part of it on a documentary where this lady actually did score an interview with him. And it's like he seems kind of like I said, like a dirtbag. But I initially thought, yeah, he sounded like the Zodiac, but now I don't think so.
Yeah, I was skeptical.
It just seems like so much of the forensic evidence
was against it.
It. And also I think he passed a polygraph as well. So it's like, and they never found, and like I said, they went through his trailer, his basement so many times.
Nothing to link him.
It's like all they found was like I said, they found bombs and stuff, which that's not good.
He also had no information about the cases that you couldn't find out of a newspaper.
Right, that's what I mean. He didn't
remember
really
there was a
seem
lot
to
of
know
there were
anything.
there were a lot of little details that he wasn't aware of, and just he was toying around with them.
I kind of feel like that too. Because initially I thought he sounded like a good suspect, but now I
think what the deal was is that his thinking was, well, they can never prove it was me because I didn't do it, so I'm gonna fuck with them and try to get some free street cred. And maybe get people in the media to think that he's the Zodiac and they can't catch him.
Yeah.
You weren't dealing with a really intelligent guy, really.
Yeah.
The guy was very, I would say, low on the intellectual scale. He kind of reminded me of who the two dudes the confession machine guys.
Oh, Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah, like Henry. Tool. Yeah, kind of like a Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah, that bitch will confess to it.
That confessed to him.
I'm just saying, I'm sure he did kill a couple people, but he just confessed. Yeah, I killed them. I killed hundreds of people.
I think he was only confirmed that he killed one during a little robbery.
Yeah, I think that's all it was.
Robbing a gas station, and
that's bad enough.
He knew he wasn't going to...
He confessed to 100.
He knew he would never be a free man for that one homicide, so he would just confess to everything and make up stories and try to get famous while he was behind bars in prison.
Yeah.
And the justice system liked it because they could clear their books of unsolved murders. He'd go around, we did that. He didn't know anything about those cases.
Yeah. But, so, like I said, other than him being the prime suspect, there's a bunch of other ones, some of them, crazier than others. I think I mentioned on the Black Dahlia show that Steve Hodel, who wrote the book The Black Dahlia Avenger, and said that his dad, George Hill Hodel, had killed the Black Dahlia, and that sounded sort of reasonable. Yeah. But then he kind of went off the rails. I guess he wanted some of that sweet book publishing money. And he wrote another book called Most Evil, in which he said, oh, by the way, my dad was also the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
Which there is really no reason at all to think that. It's it seems like there's just no evidence for it at all. He does. Yeah. George Hill Hodel looks nothing like the sketch. His handwriting looks nothing like, you know what I mean? It's just silly.
I'm gonna go with the official story. He killed the 5 canonical victims. And I don't believe he was ever caught. And I don't think he ever was a suspect. I don't think they ever got him in their sights.
Yeah. Now,
and chances are he's dead.
Well, one of the interesting things, and I just saw this recently, so I don't know how credible this is, because here's the thing, and why I brought up Steve Hodel and George Hill Hodel was that, everyone and their mom is like, yeah, my dad's the Zodiac killer, my dad's this and that and the other. Now, so this guy in 2007 his name is Dennis Kaufman, and he comes out and he says, my stepdad, Jack Terrence, I think, was the Zodiac. Now, the reason that he thought this was because apparently he was going through his dad's stuff and he found the executioner's hood with the symbol on it. Now, that has been submitted to the FBI for DNA analysis. Apparently, the results were inconclusive. They couldn't really get any good DNA off of it. However, I saw an interview with this guy, and this guy really seems to believe that his fucking stepdad was the Zodiac.
If they can date that material back to that time, there's a good chance that may have been him.
And he had a shit ton of handwriting samples of his stepdad, and they submitted them to a couple of, I know handwriting analysis is not an exact science, blah, 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 but the handwriting was really similar. I mean, it looked a lot like it.
Sounds like a good lead.
So, and he showed pictures of his stepdad, and his stepdad looked a lot like that drawing. And the thing is, it's like...
Do they have any DNA samples from him?
You know what? I don't know. Well, yeah. He's dead now, but...
Yeah. You could always
so,
dig him up. There's probably DNA in there.
Because he couldn't have died that long ago,
Yeah.
I would think. But he says, Dennis Kaufman says, I got my stepdad to... Because his stepdad was dying, and he's like, so I got him to... I recorded him saying, like, essentially saying that he was the Zodiac killer. And they did play, like, parts of the interview and stuff, and it does kind of sound like he's confessing to some shit. So, like I said, I don't know. It's like, that's the thing. It's hard to know what to take seriously because everybody's like, yeah, my dad's a Zodiac,
everybody's
blah, blah,
trying
blah.
to
But it's like, yeah, but it had to be somebody.
Yeah.
It had to be somebody.
If they date that hood to that time, because the type of fabric and everything, maybe get some DNA off of it, you'd think that he'd have some hair or some dander stuck up inside that thing. You get a DNA off of it, you'd know.
Yeah.
And then you could exhume his body, get a sample there, you know, if it's not too degraded.
Yeah.
I think they'd probably be all right. You could probably ID him.
I mean, they do seem to be taking it somewhat seriously.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes.
Well, that may be him.
Yeah, there was another one. There was a guy named Lewis Myers who in 2014 actually confessed to a friend that because he was dying, he had cirrhosis of the liver, and he said that he was the Zodiac killer. So, we'll see how that goes. Now, this guy did actually go to the same high school as some of the victims, so he was like around there. He was in the military. He had the same kind of boots, like the wing walker boots.
So there's something to it.
So there are, so it's not just the fact that he said so. There are some kind of like associations and shit like that. Yeah. And they thought it was interesting that in the period when no Zodiac letters came to the papers, which was between 1971 and 1973, he was overseas.
They were thinking that at the time, and some of the symbols that he used in his ciphers were like nautical symbols, and some of the Nazi
they did. They looked like like little semaphore flags and shit like that.
And some of the some of the knots that he tied were Navy. Type knots. And one of the people that jumped out, remember the girl that jumped out of the car?
Yeah, Kathleen Jones.
Right. Yeah. She described it a Navy type guy.
Yeah, they think he was Navy or Air Force.
Right. He had a military style haircut and
like I said,
spit polished shoes.
He had wing walker boots, and they said that you would get those at a military PX for like walking around on airplane wings, like for maintenance and stuff.
Yeah.
But those were the kinds of those. Now, before we go, I want to say, now this is on the Wikipedia page, they actually don't name Edward Wayne Edwards as one of the suspects for the Zodiac, but he does come up in some crimes because a lot of crimes that he actually did, that they know that he did commit, were very Zodiac-esque. So he is actually a serial killer. He died in 2011. He was also a bank robber. He held up gas stations, shit like that. But he was actually... What he did was he had like this kind of terrible childhood, and then he went into criminal life like very early, and then he ended up going to prison, and then he supposedly, there was a nice guard at Leavenworth that turned his life around. He reformed, he got married, blah, blah, blah. And then he went on the lecture circuit, and he wrote a book like about his reform, and he went around like as a motivational speaker, right? But then later on, he went back to a life of crime. So I guess he wasn't really reformed. Then he went around shooting people. Yeah. So obviously, they didn't help him. He even turned up on like some fucking game shows and stuff, like to tell the truth and stuff, like about his reform and everything. So he actually did some murders later on. In 1977, he did a Lover's Lane murder too. Billy Lavaco and Judy Straub. That was in Ohio, I think. And then he did one in Wisconsin in 1980. These were called the Sweetheart Murders. That was Tim Hack and Kelly Drew. Same thing. He walks up to him in a car and shoots him.
Wonder why that was a thing.
I don't know. There was a lot of that, though. And like I said, even later, and this is in my book, too, the Atlanta Lover's Lane killing. That was a black guy. It wasn't the same guy. But
haters, I guess.
But yeah, it was just like
some
people
kind of weird
for
thing,
some
like,
reason just walking up
how
to...
dare you guys are getting it on. Pow.
Yeah, I don't have a woman.
Yeah, something weird. You guys shouldn't be doing that. Someone punish you.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So Edward Edwards, so for the people that he killed, that he was convicted for, it was 2 Lover's Lane type murders. The other murder that he was convicted for was his stepson. It was his adopted son, even though he legally wasn't adopted. The kid's name was Danny Boy. And he killed the kid for life insurance. So that was nice. So, but he got convicted of that. So some people think that he might have also been responsible for one of the earlier crimes I talked about, Larry Payton and Beverly Allen, because he was in the area at the time, and he was actually one of their first suspects. And when they picked him up, he had what appeared to be a bullet wound in his arm, which would kind of go with the whole, hey, Larry got off a shot at the attacker. But he just said, oh, I was out shooting like pheasants or so. He's had some stupid excuse. I don't know. But so this guy, he's, like I said, he's dead now, but he's kind of one of those guys. I think a couple years ago, they made a documentary called like The Serial Killer You've Never Heard Of or something like that, because they think he killed a shit ton more people than they know of, than just the 5 that he was convicted of. And some people think that he might have been the Zodiac as well. So he's not a name that comes up a lot, but he is kind of an interesting character, and I wrote about him some in my book also. But I think that's probably, this is like a huge, humongous case, and there's just like so many. I wanted to get some into the fucking...
We actually covered a lot of it, though.
We actually did, yeah, and I was like, I was going to get a little bit into, kind of the stupider theories.
To know any more, you'd have to actually read these books. There are a bunch of little details about these cases. They're interesting, but it's not enough to catch the guy. They would have caught him a long time ago.
Yeah, and like I said, if you really wanted, and if you want to see all the letters, they've all been scanned, and you can see them and everything. And you go to like ZodiacCiphers.com or the ZodiacKiller.com, and it's just like thousands and thousands of hours worth of information about every possible thing you could want to know about this case has been.
There were 5 homicides and a series of mysterious letters. It was an interesting case. The guy fucking played it up into something, scared the shit out of the cops, was writing letters to the damn newspapers, making weird demands, and then the guy just kind of evaporated.
Yeah, so
that's I think he burned out.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that they're trying to do that GED match, that genealogy thing, trying to catch this son of a bitch too. So maybe they will. They caught the Golden State Killer, and we never thought that would happen.
They might catch him, but I think he's going to be dead.
Well, that's
They're
fine
going to get a
too.
DNA match and go, yeah, it's that guy, and he's dead. He's down on the ground.
That's fine.
It'll be something like that.
Wait, everybody just wants to know who it is.
Yeah.
Even though it'll probably... I know this is kind of a fucked up thing to say, but it's like I think people will be disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because he's like such a boogeyman.
Yeah, he killed some people. He was kind of dorky, and then he got tired of it. Was afraid of getting caught and stuff.
Well, see, that's what kind of made me think of that Jack Terrence guy that that was that guy's stepdad that he was talking about. And he said during the interview, he's like, yeah, I just got burned out. I got too old, blah, blah, blah. Right. That's what the guy said, like, in the interview. I don't know if he's really the Zodiac or not.
He got bored with it. It didn't give him the satisfaction he was looking for, and just like, there's not much to this.
They do kind of age out, generally. Yeah. I mean, that's what happened to Golden State Killer. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of weird. So maybe that's what happened to this guy, too. Yeah. So... Anyway, this has been a kind of a fun show. I've been spent days and days and days like researching this because this is like a really fascinating case to me. So like I said, if you want to see more information, obviously you can go pretty much anywhere else, and there's just like tons of shit everywhere. You can read for hours and hours, and you'll just never run out of stuff to read. So that will do it for episode 109. Remember, if you like the show, to like, share, subscribe on all your social media and share with all your friends. It helps us out a lot. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account. Make sure and check out our last movie review, which was The Evil from 1978, a haunted house movie. It's very cool, and actually you can watch it on YouTube for free if you want to. And also check out my games on Giallo Games, which is on The Game Crafter. My book, The Faceless Villain, is out in print and should be out in ebook by the time this episode goes up. Check out Thomm's shitty movies with 2Ds on Facebook if you want to see his little funny capsule reviews.
There's a bunch of guys on there talking about movies.
It's a sausage fest, like he said, so if you don't mind wading into the waving fields of sausage, then head on
bunch of single sausage over there.
Then go and check it out. And that will do it for this installment. We will see you next time. Bye.